So, I may be recording as a hurricane approaches. My priorities might be out of whack.
Hey guys, Trip here. How was your week? Mine involved getting a second-degree burn on the back of my hand, losing $500 on the stock market, injecting rats with amphetamine, falling into a wormhole, landing on an alien planet, and taking 2 exams. So, yeah, it's been a long week. Now you may think of this as a bit of a filler episode, and yeah, I can't really argue with you there. But hey, I'm stuck on another planet. I'm just surprised this place has Wi-Fi. Today I've been thinking about RPGs. If you've been following this channel for a while, you'd know I'm obsessed with them, and that I'm always looking for ideas and concepts for new ones. I'm particularly interested in settings that break the mold of fantasy RPGs, moving away from their traditional medieval European trappings and into settings we rarely see. So I want to know all of your crazy ideas for RPGs. What weird settings have you dreamt up? How does the world work? What strange, interesting characters have you been dying to see in a video game? To get you started, I'll give you some ideas of my own. You guys may know that I've been working on my own story behind the scenes for a few months now. Long story short, imagine a science fantasy Looney Tunes taking place in an anarcho-capitalist society. But I don't want to spoil too much of that yet, so I'll pick something new. I've always wanted to make a high fantasy world based on the United States. In the same way The Lord of the Rings draws inspiration from Germanic mythology, I've always wanted to make a story that draws inspiration from all the diverse cultures of early America. Instead of dragons, I want to see giant bald eagles. I want to see wendigos stalking the forests. I want to see witches from Salem riding on broomsticks. I want to see that unique fusion of Native American, Hispanic, European, African, and Asian cultures that makes the US such a prime location for a fantasy story. I came up with this idea on spring break a few years ago. We were playing a game where one of us would come up with a title and the rest of us had to build a story around it. My friend came up with the title Manifest Prophecy, and I immediately imagined a high fantasy version of the Oregon Trail, a journey to the West full of magic and monsters, all based on American folklore. What's especially weird is that so few people have done this before. Now, I'm sure there are dozens of examples I'm not thinking of, but I'm willing to bet there's a lot less American fantasy out there than, say, European fantasy. I can only think of a few series that have done this off the top of my head, and aside from Hard West, I can't think of a single video game that's explored these ideas. And even then, that's a Western game. I want to see a fantasy world that encompasses the entirety of America. New England alone is full of bizarre folklore, ghost stories, myths, and enough material to create an entire series out of. I grew up there. I know some stories. Stephen King's written, 1,000 books in that place? You'd think someone else would catch on. Now the obvious downside is that when you're working with a culture and time period that's so relatable and recent, you run the risk of stepping on eggshells so you don't offend anybody. This may come as a surprise to you, but the United States doesn't exactly have a spotless history when it comes to social issues. This country has a lot of dark history that in real life is terrifying, but also creates the perfect backdrop for a story. Slavery, the Trail of Tears, Wounded Knee, anti-Chinese legislation. If you were to incorporate the intolerance that actually existed in this country into an RPG, you'd run the risk of pissing off a lot of people. At the same time, if you ignore the issues we've had as a country, you're doing both history and your world a disservice. I don't think it's fair to ignore an entire country and time period just because it might hurt people's feelings. I think there's a lot of creative space for an American fantasy world, and I'd love to see more creators explore it. So, like everything I write, I'd want it to be charming and lighthearted at its core, but I don't want things to be all puppies and rainbows either. The United States is a treasure trove of fantasy material, and it's a shame we haven't seen more material based on it. RPGs give you the power to immerse yourself in another world, to experience another culture, or to see an altered version of your own. There's something about a fantasy version of classic Americana that appeals to me deeply, and I'd love to play around with it. So what are some of your crazy ideas for RPGs? What unique setting and colorful characters have you come up with? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, Trip here. If you liked that video, why not watch some more? Hit that like button and make sure to share this video on Reddit and social media. If you want to see more Psychotrip, check out my Patreon. There you'll find all of my videos, as well as articles I've written for Comicsverse. If you like what you see, think about donating $1 or $2. I think my wallet got lost in that wormhole. Oh, and if you like this song that's playing, check out my friend GameLark. He collaborates with all sorts of musicians to create these awesome video game remixes. We also do a podcast together called Devil May Play, where we talk about video games, music, and YouTube's latest bullshit. So if you want to see more raw, pure, uncut Psychotrip, check me out over there. I'll leave links to the podcast and GameLark's channel in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.